Hello everyone, this is Anushka Mann and I welcome you back to my channel. So today's video has been made after so many people requested on the YouTube comments and on the LinkedIn DMs that they wanted to know how to tackle the VARC section in the upcoming CAT examination. So today's video is going to be focused on that particular aspect only. And also I would like to tell you guys that if there is any topic that you want me to focus on or make a video on regarding the CAT preparation, you're more than welcome to comment that topic below, and I'll try to see if I can make a video on those topics as well so that it can help you in your preparation for the CAT examination. So let's get started with today's video. So first of all, let us talk of the reading comprehension section, reading comprehension part, which is like one of the most difficult things about VARC to tackle, and also the large chunk of this particular section. So you'll have 4 RCs, there are going to be 16 questions, which is equivalent to 48 marks. Like, that's a lot, you can't ignore it at all. So in this video, I'll share the things that I did and things that you might also do to boost your scores in the RCs. So first of all, the biggest tip that I have for anyone who wants to improve their scores in the VARC section is that divide your 40 minutes in this section effectively. Now, I have seen a lot of people do this, and I used to do this initially too while I was struggling with this section, that I did not divide my time, my 40 minutes for the RC part and for the verbal ability part. I would just get inside the section and just start attempting questions haphazardly. But this is the biggest mistake that any CAT aspirant can make. It is very important that before you start giving the examination or before you start attempting a mock, you should have a strategy in your mind that this is the minimum number of questions I'm going to do, and this is the fixed time that I'm going to take for each particular section or each particular question. Because if you don't set a time limit for yourself while you are solving questions, be it for any section, even for DILR or quants, if you get stuck on one thing, then you are going to lose marks on the other part. You're going to lose a lot of time, you're going to lose a lot of marks. So it's very important that before you get inside a mock, before you start attempting it, you focus, you create this rough strategy in your head that I'm going to take this much time per question or this much time per section, and once that time limit is up, whether or not that section or that question is complete, I'm going to move on. I'm going to leave that behind. I think that's the biggest tip I can give to a lot of CAT aspirants, and it helps to save a lot of time that you can devote to perhaps other sections or other questions that might help you score more. Now, speaking of the VARC section, you can do this way that you can divide it into 20 minutes. 20 minutes for the RCs and 20 minutes for the other part, the verbal ability part, or maybe you can do 24 minutes for the RCs part and the rest of the time for the verbal ability part. That is something that you have to check based on your performance, that which section would need how much time. Now, speaking of how much time you should devote to each RC, before that I would like to suggest you guys that before starting a mock, decide it pre-hand based on your level of performance or your level of preparation, that how many minimum RCs are you gonna complete in that particular mock. That whether you'll complete 1 RC in that mock, whether you are aiming to complete at least 2 RCs in that particular mock, or maybe 3 or 4 based on your level of performance or your level of preparation at that point of time. Suppose you are a beginner at the moment, and you're not able to solve even 1 RC properly in the entire section. So what I did was, I used to devote like 10 minutes per RC. So that would be like, I was able to solve like 2 RCs in those in one particular mock initially, and the rest 20 minutes was for the verbal ability part. So 10 minutes per RC, which included the reading and attempting questions part, and the rest of the time was for verbal ability part. And once those 10 minutes per RC was over, I used to move on to the next one without delving or wasting more time on that particular RC. Now coming to choosing RCs, whether or not you should choose RCs, or should you just get inside the examination and start attempting the questions. So now this strategy depends on your level of performance. I'll share my personal experience. So initially for the first 2 or 2.5 months, my speed was slow, my reading comprehension speed was slow. So I was able to attempt just 2 to 3 RCs in one particular mock. And I used to choose RCs. Obviously, like if you are attempting like less than 4 RCs, you will have to choose one. I used to choose the one which with which I felt more comfortable. The topics with which I felt more comfortable, like if it was relating to psychology, it really interested me and I felt comfortable. So I used to generally attempt those kinds of RCs. And I was really afraid of economics and sort of uncomfortable around those subjects, and they took a lot of time for me initially to comprehend them. So I used to leave those out. So based on the topics that you are comfortable with, you should choose the RCs based on that, and then start attempting them. Now generally in the CAT RCs, there are certain themes which are very common on which the essays are based. Some of the common themes that I've observed are psychology, philosophy, then there is economy related stuff, financial related stuff, literature, sciences like AI and technology based, natural sciences, something related to the prehistoric era or something like that, something related to history. This is also a subject that is very common in CAT RCs. So I will suggest that if you are preparing for the reading comprehension part, you should get comfortable with the terminologies that are frequently used in these particular themes. Because when you will encounter such an RC in the CAT examination, even if you have to choose the RCs, you won't feel uncomfortable in going with any of them, because you'll feel comfortable in understanding all the themes that are present in the reading comprehensions. Now, how can you improve your knowledge regarding these particular themes on which essays are based? So there is this particular source which is called Aeon, which I used very frequently, wherein you have essays on various themes. So what you can do is that every morning when you wake up, spend at least 30 to 35 minutes reading one Aeon essay, and every day try to switch the theme on which you are reading the essays. So when you will open the website of Aeon, so there will be essays based on themes. So select a different theme every day, and if you encounter a difficult word, note it down so that your terminology and your vocabulary regarding any of the themes, whether it's natural sciences, economics, finance, whatever, it's like up to date. And whenever you are actually attempting the mock, the VARC part, you don't feel like you don't understand any of the sentences in those mocks. So this is one of the tips that I've got for you. Now coming to the RC part. Now that suppose if you are a beginner, I would suggest that you should not take more than 8 to 10 minutes per RC initially, and as you proceed with your preparation, you should keep in mind that your time for attempting a particular set of RC reduces gradually. Like every 2 weeks, your time should be reducing. If not, then try to polish your basics. Try to read, spend more time reading the essays, additional essays, polishing your vocabulary, attempting the sectional mocks, or maybe attempting the previous RCs present in the previous year question papers, so that your speed increases gradually. But initially 8 to 10 minutes is fine. Now in those 8 to 10 minutes per RCs, you also have to subdivide and finalize the time that you will be allotting for reading the RCs and for attempting the questions. Again, the entire game of CAT is not just about the having specific knowledge about specific topics. It's also about time management. It's a race of time, you guys. You have got very little time and you have to do a lot of things in that time. So how do you manage that time? So for doing that, you should fix your time for reading the RC, for attempting the questions, the time you will be taking per RC, the time you will be taking for different sections, different parts, and so on. Now, first of all, if you are speaking of the RC part, suppose you have decided in your mind that you're going to take 8 minutes per hour. So what you can do is you can spend around 4.5 minutes in reading the RCs, and the rest of the time should be allotted to solving the questions in the RCs. Now, speaking of how to read the RCs and how to understand it. So let me tell you one thing, that in any passage that you will find in any of the reading comprehensions, there is a certain pattern. And that pattern is that in every passage, there is a central theme. And based on that central theme, there are certain arguments given by the author, either accepting or rejecting that central theme. Suppose an essay is about AI, okay, artificial intelligence. So you will first of all have to identify the central theme of the passage, which is generally present in the first or second paragraph. In the first or second paragraph, you will get to know what this entire passage is going to be about. So once you have identified the central theme, then you have to understand the arguments given by the author for that particular passage. Whether the author is in favor of AI, whether the author is rejecting the concept of AI, what is his argument about? So you have to pick on those arguments as well from the rest of the passages. Rest all other information, extra information like facts and figures and numbers. This year in 1978 this happened, 2014 this happened, 17%, 18% percentages, whatever. It is all useless for you in terms of understanding or attempting the questions. Your main focus when you are attempting an RC should be to identify the central theme and the arguments, and what are those arguments telling us about the theme. And lastly, the conclusion of the author. Now, the conclusions are sometimes open-ended, that is open to interpretation by the readers, and sometimes it's a definitive conclusion that the author states this definitively. So 3 things. First of all, the central theme, the arguments, and the conclusion. You have to identify these 3 things in every passage and ignore the rest of the numbers. Don't get too engrossed in remembering and memorizing the numbers that the author had mentioned that 78% people are doing this and that. That's just pretty useless. Focus on these particular 3 aspects. Now this was about how to read the RC, the reading comprehension. I can suggest that whatever workbook or whatever materials that you are referring to, you can pick up the sample reading comprehensions that you have, and then try to apply what I just told you in those particular reading comprehension, and see if you are able to identify those 3 things: the theme, the arguments, and the conclusion in those passages. If you are done identifying these 3 things, you are done with half the work in the RC section. Now coming to attempting the questions. First of all, read and understand the question very, 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 very thoroughly. A lot of times people get confused among 2 options because they look identical, or maybe they are not able to understand what the question is demanding from them, and then they end up marking the wrong answer. And that is because you are not reading and understanding the question carefully. Spend time, focus carefully, and understand and analyze what the question is actually asking from you. The next thing is, while you are marking options, this is one of the strategies that really helped me. It is to eliminate the wrong options first rather than finding the right one. Because when you go on, in finding the one right option, generally in the CAT examination, 2-3 options are considerably similar, or maybe 2 options would be there that are very much similar. But if you are like eliminating those options which are like completely wrong or not related to the question anyway, so if you eliminate those options, you will be left with the ones which actually fit in with the question. So eliminate the wrong options first before answering questions in the reading comprehension. Now there's another tip that my mentor at the coaching platform that I was taking used to repeat again and again, and it was very helpful. That is, do not do word to word matching when you are marking answers in the reading comprehension part. That the question mentions a certain statement and there is a certain the exact same statement is also in the passage. So these two would be the correct pair and then you mark the wrong option. That's not how it works in the CAT examination. It's not a second grade, or you're not in second grade or third grade that they're going to ask you to find the exact words in the passage and then mark the answers. No, they want you to understand the passage. So do not do word to word matching when you are attempting the reading comprehensions. Now the last tip that I have for this particular video is to measure your risk taking ability. Now what I mean by risk taking ability is that when you are attempting the mocks, first of all I would suggest that create a separate notebook for mocks, wherein after the mocks are over, when you analyze them and you find some questions that you were not able to, you should note them down in that particular register. So on the front page of that register, write the date and the mock score against that particular date and track if your mock scores are improving day by day or not. And when you are doing that, understand your risk taking ability. Now what does that mean? What I mean is that you should get to know after a certain point of time that this is the minimum number of correct questions that I do on an average in every mock, and this is the minimum number of incorrect attempts that happen in the mocks that I attempt. You should have a rough idea about both of those things. So based on that analysis, you should, whenever you encounter a question in your examination wherein you are not 100% sure about the answer, like there is a confusion between two options, there is a 50-50 scenario. So you should know that whether you can exercise the leverage of going for a negative marking in case your option is wrong, or whether you should leave that question or not, that is not attempt that question. Because I have seen a lot of time that a lot of aspirants, they just keep marking the answers in order to increase their attempts, and in that case they lose a lot of marks from negative marking. Now -1 seems like a very little score as compared to +3 score that you might get when attempting the right answer, but overall when your total score is calculated, the negative marking, it can really break your score. So make sure that you are aware of your risk taking ability, how much risk you can take while attempting the questions that you are not sure of, whether you should leave that question or you should attempt it and take a little bit risk, because you have that leverage, because you have attempted a certain number of correct questions. You're sure of that it would be cover up, that it could cover up the that particular question even if it is wrong. So risk taking ability. So these were certain tips and tricks that helped me boost my scores in the VARC section in the CAT examination. So if there's any question, anything particular that you want me to make a video on, comment it below and I'll try to film a video on that. And that's it for today, guys. I hope these videos help you, and I really hope that you all score really well in the CAT examination. Good luck, you've got this, you can do it. Okay, bye bye.